Your insecurity is your superpower, asking you to let it be. Your deepest insecurity, your deepest fear, the tension in your body, the very thing which keeps you in a state of paralysis. Your deepest obstacle. That is the thing that your soul must shine its light upon, shine its light upon in order to break through. As eternal soulful children of God, we came into this experience of human being in order to experience the contrast between bliss and absolute sorrow, between good and evil, between absolute expansion and absolute constriction. And with the divine perfection of God and God's will present in all things, even if the world seems fucked up in so many ways, because it is, somehow, by some unfathomable genius, God's perfection, woven into each of our sovereign soulful wills, manages to transmute all of the constrictions, all of the insecurities, all of the fears, all of the evils, all of the imperfections back into his infinite love, perfection, and grace. I don't know how. I don't exactly know why. My mind cannot fathom it as much as it might like to, as much as the scientific materialists of our day who are constructing dying paradigms and dying infrastructures in search of a grasp at this innate knowledge that is purely present and fathomless within the realm of mind. I forget where I was going. This truth simply is. I was just in a men's group call, again, a very powerful session in which I was asked to give an offering. And I, as a writing being and a somatic being, as a Scorpio Sagittarius, and whatever else transcends the categories of meaning which one wishes to impose upon oneself, I offered a somatic writing workshop. And throughout the entire process, my body was tense. My body was insecure. My body was like, this isn't good enough. Is this gonna work? Is this working? Is this having any effect? Is this helping anyone? Are people actually even like picking up on this? No, they probably fucking hate this. They're probably like, this is the worst fucking workshop I've ever done in my life. And yet it was very well received. People were like, what? No, that was amazing. Which is not the point. I still walked away from that feeling the tensions within my body of the absolute depth of my insecurity and my fears. Walking away from that extremely potent session like, and feeling such a tremendous depth of insecurity within my heart. And so, I felt little pangs of the wish and the yearning and the desire to numb out those extremely uncomfortable, deep feelings of lack, of insecurity, of being not enough, of unworthiness. To drown those feelings with food, with scrolling, and with reaching externally for any kind of way to avoid facing that feeling. I felt subtle pangs of that. But I also felt these feelings are extremely present right now. How can I work with them in order to heal? So I did that. And I came to this spot. And I danced. Well, first, I entered one of the deepest prayerful trances that I ever have in my life. And I dove into the somatic tensions and I moved my body ever so subtly, but I more phonetically rearranged the quantum structure of my being favorably in realignment with God and prayerfully calling in the presence of God to reveal to me what this is and to guide me into a shedding of the layers that keep me confined within my own uncomfortability. And so that happened right there, where I drew a prayerful circle intuitively around me without knowing what I was doing. I channeled a poetic musing resembling like ancient Greek poetry, calling in the divine within my body, releasing all of the patterns of insecurity and misalignment and falsity and deceit, and again, restructuring the layers of my being. And then I got to a point where I felt the call to move my body through the tensions that my insecurity embodies within my being. And so I put on my headphones and I danced like an absolute madman. Like an absolute wild savage. Savage being rooted, in my experience, in the word sauvage, which just means wild person. Sauvage, being French. And sauvage, savage, is what they would call the indigenous peoples of America and other countries that they were colonizing and murdering. Which is to say that upon, it slightly bothers me that these two people are standing in this video, but unbothered. That I prayed myself into a trance, which then allowed me to connect with the intuitive indigeneity of my body, with my primordial, wild, animal, savage essence of being, and just move like the water that I am, and like the waters of the womb, which are over there. In the ocean being the womb. And upon moving my body like an absolute wild man, not like a wild man, as a wild man, and tuning into the primordial energy of that substance of my soul embodied here and now in this animal human body, I have achieved what feels like a breaking through the surface of my insecurity, whereby the light of my soul has found its own security within the heart, within the omnipresence of God, within the substratum of reality, within the ever-present, loving, nurturing, motherly presence of Mother Earth, here beneath my feet, here within the perfect fluidity of the water. The waters being so soft right now. I don't know how well you can see it, but you must know what I'm talking about. When the surface of the water is so silky smooth and serene as to contain and reflect the surreality of reality within it. Upon its surface, the transcendental emanations of God's breath floating and rippling along, and the absolute perfection of all divinity embodied in the world and transcendent above and within the world. This state of perfection, of perceived perfection, symbiotic, as within, so without, within the reflective ripples of my being and of my reality generation field, wherein I now dwell in a symbiotic feeling and enmeshment with the divine perfection and beauty of being. This state of being, this innate purity, was just on the other side of this wall, this rigid wall of my insecurities, which wrap themselves around my soul and my light and my heart to say, like, to somehow convince me that it's not safe to enmesh myself in the field of that perfection. To somehow convince me that, like, I'm not worthy of that. To somehow convince me that I better hide, I better, like, tremble in face of my own power. And that is what is meant by the only way out is through. And that is what is meant, well, and the only way out is through means feeling the sensations within your body and tracing their intelligence prayerfully and allowing that intelligence to guide you into its own release, into the chrysalis, if that's how you pronounce it, turning cocoon, turning caterpillar into butterfly. I'd be willing to bet that the caterpillar crawling into its cocoon, well, it is likely a state akin to the womb where it's just pure and absolute primordial bliss and love. But there is a potentiality of there being darkness and fear and shadows and, like, what is on the other side of this? Given that most animals in this reality do experience the spectrum of fear and love in a similar kind of fullness that we do. I'm thinking in particular of a lion chasing a hyena. The hyena does experience love in its purest, most absolute form, and it also experiences fear in its purest, most absolute form. So perhaps the caterpillar experiences that within her cocoon. But nevertheless, this caterpillar certainly does experience that within his cocoon. And perhaps this caterpillar as well, being you. Which is all to say that, as I mentioned, your insecurity is your superpower asking itself to come into bloom, asking you to let it bloom. So that when your insecurities present themselves, when you feel trauma, when you feel anxiety, when you feel triggered, when you feel pain within your body, when you feel tension, when you feel any kind of obstacle in reality, that is an opportunity for your soul, for your will, to call upon God and to ask for guidance on how to work with this energy, which has been presented as an obstacle, or which is only an optical illusion designed specifically by the hand of God in order to bring you closer to your soul's purpose, your soul's bloom, your soul's calling, and then back into the arms of God and Goddess where you belong within your arms. And really interestingly, all of these musings felt alive in me before I did all this prayer and this movement and this somatic releasing and rearranging of my body and shedding the layers. And I tried to record a video and it was just like, it wasn't flowing. It wasn't coming through as it's coming through so very seamlessly right now, as though this was just like why I exist. Which is a testament to the power of diving into the feelings, of diving into the fears, of diving into the tensions, of diving into the insecurities, facing them prayerfully with the light of your soul and God by your side, realigning yourself into a state of homeostasis, and then the seamless fluidity that belongs to the perfection of all of reality, of the entire universe, of all of God's breathed creation, the seamlessness of breath, inhale, exhale, absolute perfection. You harmonize yourself with that fluidity, and then you operate in the world within that state of seamlessness and reciprocity and true abundance and true soulful emanation of being. That's about it. The final thing I'll say is that my body feels fluid. It feels like water. It feels like I am the waters of the ocean. It feels like I am the waters of the trickling air, the breath of God contained within all things. It feels like I am the air. You can't see these rocks. It feels like I am the quantum air tingling within these rocks, like the structure of reality. It feels like I am the plasma of the sun, just swirling in pure, absolute, wild fluidity, primordially aligned to the primeval breath of the Creator. For all of these things simply are that breath. Face your insecurities. When they come up in your life, face them and feel them and touch them with the light of your soul and the waters of your being and the prayerful breath of God. And on the other side, Thank you for listening. I send love, blessings, authenticity, abundance, that you might feel the light of your soul unfurl its angelic wings and bring us all closer to God, to freedom, to divinity, to truth, of eradicating all of the parasites that try to convince us that they have any kind of hold on this reality. Melt them away with the authenticity of your truth, of your presence, of your divinity, of your freedom. And that's how we heal the world. Thank you.